if I traded it all, if I gave it.
My next guest has been on the air with me before. I have with me Amie Mendoza. She's the owner of the law offices of Amie Mendoza. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Carol. I'm really happy to be here again.
Well, Happy New Year to you. And there's something that you wanted to talk about today. And you said, Carol, I'm going to tell a story.
Yeah.
So I'm ready to hear it. Why don't you tell a little bit about you?
Sure.
And about your firm, and then we can hear the story.
Sure. Well, we, at my firm, we do estate planning. That's our primary focus. We also do some small business general counsel services. But today, I'm here to talk about the estate planning side and kind of the difference between what people think is estate planning and what really it does for you while you're alive, not when you're gone.
Right.
So there's another side to all of this that people think, well, that'll come into effect when I'm gone. But really, it's more important to have it around for when you're alive.
Well, here's what I want to do. I'm going to give out some information about you because we want to hear the story, but it's going to be very impactful, and they might want to do this right away, which I believe everybody should anyway. You're offering for everyone who calls in, it's a $750 value. It's a family life and legacy planning session. That's for anyone. You can either go to her website at mylawaz.com/KFNX, or you can just go ahead and call here. We want you to get connected. We want you to get this, and I'm going to tell you what it is in a minute, but it's our number here is 602-277-5369, and toll free it's 1-866-536-1100. Please tell them what they get with this family life and legacy planning. It's a $750 value, so It's got to be good.
It is. It's great.
Okay.
It's 2 hours of my time where we sit down and personally go through their situation. We whiteboard out what their as is for today, what would happen to them and their loved ones and their things and everything if something happened to them without changing a thing at all. And then we talk through what they'd like and don't like about that and whether or not we should design a plan to meet the needs of what they actually have identified that they don't like.
So this is 2 hours of her time that you're going to get, and it's a $750 value. You can either call her too. That's at 480-418-7381.
That's right.
And then, of course, her website, which we're going to send you to this one. It's mylawaz.com/KFNX. Or call here at 602-277-5369. Okay, I want to hear the story. You said you had a story. Go ahead.
I do, and it's heartbreaking, but I really feel like this story is everybody needs to hear the story. This story is about a father and a son, adult father and adult son. Father had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and son lived in another state and came here using a document that was a power of attorney to go to try to manage his father's affairs for him and get control of his bank accounts to be able to pay for him to be, in a home that would take care of him appropriately. When he came here, he found out that, of course, most banks don't honor those documents alone, those powers of attorney, and they don't have to. Instead, they say, go get a court order that says that I have to give you access to this account. Rightfully so, right? Because we don't want just anyone getting into bank accounts. So son goes to court with the document and asks the court to put him in charge of his dad's person and in his dad's money. Unfortunately, there are rules in the system that say that if you're going to be responsible for another person's money, we call that conservatorship here in Arizona, you're going to have to get bonded. And if you go to get a bond, because, they want to protect the assets of the person that you're responsible for their money. You go to get a bond, you have to have good credit in order to get a bond because the bond companies are kind of insuring you, right? So, unfortunately, son did not have good credit. So he was unable to get a bond. So the court did not appoint him to be the conservator for his father. They appointed instead a public fiduciary. Son didn't really have much alarm about this at first because, he figured, okay, great, that's a public fiduciary. They're going to, take care of my dad's things, and I'll go ahead and be able to take care of his person. The court actually did get him the authority to take care of the guardian of his dad's body, basically, make decisions healthcare-wise. However, what happens when this occurs is that not only are you paying court fees and lawyers' fees, but you're also paying the public fiduciaries are getting fees from the estate of father, and they're all lawyering up because they want to be protected as well. And those lawyers are also taking fees from the estate of father. This estate was incredibly modest, Carol. It was not anywhere near a ginormous, estate that could go on and on and on. But it was enough to be able to take care of this gentleman's father. Okay, so let's fast forward, right? Son gets dad into a facility because he does indeed have the authority to make decisions about his body and his health care. And then he tells the fiduciary that was appointed where to pay the bill. Gets him in a nice place, goes back to his home state. When he goes back to his home state, a couple of months go by, he apparently had missed a hearing he needed to be at to be the guardian in Arizona. So he didn't receive the notice because he had moved around and whatnot, regardless of why he missed some hearings. And he missed some to-dos on the checklist of the court. So he had been removed as guardian during that time without knowing. And when he came back to visit his father was gone out of the facility that he had placed him in. Instead, his father had been moved to another facility that was cheap, I guess is the word for it. And of course, son was not happy about this because it wasn't the best of the best for his dad. After seeing this and trying to raise a stink kind of about what had gone wrong, you've got to respect the fact that the courts have systems in place and policies and procedures that need to be followed. And if you don't follow them, you can be removed. But again, now we've got a guardian, a conservator, both taking fees from dad's estate. They've all got attorneys taking fees from dad's estate. Son was not happy about where father was and couldn't work with him to get him into a different place or get back on the case as the guardian and the conservator, of course. So what did he do? He did what anyone else would do. He stole his dad and he took him with him back to the state that he was going to. And he started caring for him. But what happens when you do something like that? It gets worse, right? You now have a arrest warrant out for son because he stole his dad. And there's no access to any of dad's funds to pay for his care. And son is left kind of running, right, with dad. Things get a little bit worse from there, if you can imagine. We're running low on funds at this point. We've got an arrest warrant and we've got an adult that's missing. So, many people may or may not know there is an adult protective services organization in every state. And they kind of work together if they need to. And in this case, unfortunately, there were, essentially you can call it, like bounty hunters, placed out to go and rescue, I'm using quotations, rescue dad and bring him back to the state. So they went and they got dad, brought him back, and now here we are. Son has no idea where dad is because he was brought back, and the court, of course, has sealed the record as to where dad is. So son has no clue because, the court doesn't want him to steal him again. Mm-hmm. Son has no clue where dad is. So here you have a son and father who really care about one another and just want to do the right thing, ripped apart, essentially, by a system that is trying to follow the rules to keep things in place to protect people, but sometimes these things go awry. It's all the rage these days, the Making a Murderer on Netflix and serial podcasts and people getting caught up in the system when you know that they probably shouldn't be, right? Or there's questions about whether they should be. And this story is one of those.
It's an amazing story, and something that was really just all about somebody's credit, which everybody should listen to that, because how many people's, credit got affected the last few years, and it's not that great.
Right.
So, and why shouldn't you take care of this? This is something everyone should. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, We're going to talk further about what she can do for you. Our number here is 602-277-5369.
If I traded it all.
So welcome back. We are talking with Amie Mendoza. She is the owner of, obviously, the law offices of Amie Mendoza. You're located in Tempe, though you can help anyone from anywhere. We have our lines open here, and an incredible story, incredible. And we have our lines open here for everybody. She's offering you, it's a $750 value, free to you. It's a family life and legacy planning session. That's a 2-hour session that you're going to go through with her. And you could either call here. Our number here is 602-277-5369. And toll free, it's 1-866-536-1100. And I'll get you connected with her. You can also go to her website, which is mylawaz.com/KFNX. You can also call her direct, and that is 480-418-7381. Now, it was great. You know, that story was an incredible story.
Yeah.
I also am going to say one because, you know, when we were at the break, I was telling you about what my brother, and who is young. He's, you know, not even 59 years old, which is considered pretty young.
Yeah.
Who, out of the blue, now has bone cancer and not long for this world. Literally 3 months to a year only.
That's
okay.
so sad.
And
sorry,
so
Carol.
why I brought that up is because I want people to hear that, because this is why planning is so important. And it's not just for when you're older, obviously.
Absolutely.
And or when it's too late, as when really way before. Go ahead.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's so true, Carol. It's every single person. We all know what's going to happen, right? Eventually, we're going to need someone else to help take care of us. Mm-hmm. And eventually, we're all going to pass away. And it just breaks my heart to hear stories like, you know, the story of your brother and the story of this son and this father that I've shared today. And to know that all of the, you know, arduous things that go on during this time for people are completely preventable, you know, with the right planning. It's a breeze, you know?
Yeah, and yet, even with the planning, there's things that come up, and they always come up, and that's a big issue. Now, what can you do? What would be what you do for people? How can you help us?
Sure. Well, you know, when I talk about the son and the father and the situation that they found themselves in, where now their family's torn apart, has spent tons of money, lost basically the entire estate of father. All of this is avoidable with a simple estate plan, with a simple trust in place. The reason that you go into the court system in times like this is because you're not able to physically sign a document that you normally would be able to sign. So the court has to substitute some process to oversee the fact that your affairs are being handled appropriately. Now, if you've done estate planning the right way, you have a trust in place. Your trust is going to be the owner of your assets, not you personally. What does that mean? Well, that means that you never have to go to court because you have a document that covers, and you have a trusted advisor relationship, more important than the document, with an attorney like myself, who can help walk you through the steps of how to make sure that your family doesn't ever have to step foot in court once, doesn't ever have to pay those court fees and those lawyer fees once. And you don't have to worry about losing track of your loved ones in a system that is flawed, to be quite honest with you, incredibly flawed, and doesn't necessarily have all the T's crossed and the I's dotted when it comes to really caring about the individual.
I think that when people hear estate planning, too, they always think that you have to have money, and that's the reason why you do that.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's even far more important for people that don't have a ton of money, because the amount of money you will spend going through a process like that of the father and son that I talked about, or even after you've passed away, is ginormous, Carol. It's just totally unnecessary. So the cost of getting a proper plan in place that keeps you out of court and out of conflict is far more valuable and far less expensive than what you would have to end up paying, no matter how wealthy you are.
Now, when somebody there's a lot of people who have dual citizenship here, or they live in two different places. Mm-hmm. What about those people?
I mean, you could end up having, if you own a property here and in another state, and you need to settle your affairs and you don't have a plan in place that covers them, you could end up going through court twice because everything is at the state level, right? So it's even more important if you have something here and something somewhere else, to make sure that everything is done right and owned in the right way. And really, truly, Carol, the only way that you can do that is with the help of a trusted advisor. You just can't do it with somebody that doesn't care or on your own.
Well, let me give out our information. First of all, we want everybody to have this. It's a $750 value. It's free to you or someone that you know, and that's a family life and legacy planning session. It's a 2-hour session with Amie, and she's going to go over everything. I mean, that's a long time to go over everything with everybody. And thank you for that. Now, you can go to her website, which is mylawaz.com/KFNX. You can also call her direct and do a appointment with her. You do consultations with people.
That's basically what that family life and legacy planning session is. Yeah, it's just a more in-depth educational consultation than you might normally find.
Okay, and so that phone number to call her direct, it's 480-418-7381. And I want everyone to call here, too. I'm going to give you another 10 minutes after the show, too, is over to keep on calling. Here, 602-277-5369, and toll-free, it's 1-866-536-1100. This is information for you. And what I like about it is that it's something that, you know, if you get the consultation with her, you find out what it is that you need to do to cover yourself.
Right. You know, and maybe some people go through that session with me and they decide they don't need to change anything. But wouldn't it be better to be educated about what would happen, and have all that information available to you before you have to make a decision to move forward? That's the kind of beautiful thing about coming in to talk to us, is that we're going to whiteboard out for you what's going to happen. Maybe you're okay with that, but wouldn't you rather know? You know, wouldn't you rather know what's going to happen so that you can plan appropriately, or just be comfortable with the fact that you're comfortable with the way things are today?
Right. Also, another thing in your office that you do, and you're all about the children, too.
Yes.
I want to talk a little tiny bit about that since we have a little bit of time,
Sure.
too, and how your office really works. Go ahead.
Yeah. We deal a lot with young families with young children or children under the age of 18. We work a lot with helping people understand the proper process for nominating guardians for their children in case something happened to them. And it's something that a lot of people have on their minds and know that they need to do, but never really get checked off their list. And we have kind of actually a tremendously comprehensive way to go through that process that a lot of people out there don't go through, where we walk through 6 different steps with you. And, you know, a lot of times people come into my office knowing these are the people I want to nominate for guardians. And then when they leave, it's someone completely different because they never thought about the things that, you know, we kind of bring up for them to understand when we go through that.
That's why it's really important to have that consultation with her. It's not about being older. Yes, we know that when you're older, you're going to have to be taken care of. And you do want to make sure that your family gets, it's what you worked for all your life.
Right.
And I'll tell you something, my father just passed too. So I've seen how easily somebody that works so hard for so much and so many years, and it gets nothing. You get,
right.
It's amazing how often that happens.
It is, you know, and what we're trying to encourage our clients to do lately, it's really kind of exciting but hard to get people to open up to, is to have a family meeting. You know, let's talk about multi-generational wealth. You know, what if you had grandparents talking to grandchildren about what are your goals and how can I set you up for that? You know, and planning across those generations.
Nice?
Wouldn't it? I mean, because isn't that really what you want for your family, is to pass along that sense of we're all a family and we're all creating this generational wealth to pass on.
Right, and making sure that all of those T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, and even so, you want to make sure that she's offering for everybody. I'm going to let you keep on calling, guys. That is that $750 value. It's free to you. It is a 2-hour family life and legacy planning session with Amie. And you can go on her website. She's created it for you guys to go there too, which is mylawaz.com/KFNX. You can also call her. They'll do a consultation with you too there at 480-418-7381. And I'm going to keep on letting you call here at 602-277-5369. Toll free, it's 1-866-536-1100. What are your final words?
I would just encourage everyone to be able to come and get the education. It's, it's a very valuable 2 hours where you can learn what's going to happen.
And it's something that we don't want to talk about. There are a lot of things today that we didn't want to talk about, but so, so, so important. And again, please, I plead with everyone out there. This is from my heart to you guys out there, that it's not when you're older. It's when you're young, too. I love it that you take care of a lot of families that have children that are under the age of 18. Yeah. What a great time to make sure that they're all taken care of, because anything can happen to anyone at any time. Yeah. Again, her phone number is 480-418-7381. It's mylawaz.com/KFNX. You can go there or keep on calling here. We want you to get connected. This is a $750 2-hour session with Amie at 602-277-5369.
Across that line, if I traded it all, if I